Hello everyone, this is Dr. Diksha here. Welcome to another video on the PathoDoodles YouTube channel. Now this video, as you can tell from the title, is on 50 shades of pink and blue. Now, as I'm sure all of you know, we only have two colors and their different variants and gradients and grades in a routine hematoxylin and eosin stain slide. And as you can see in front of you, so much can be revealed by just understanding that what part of the tissue in front of you would take a pink stain or would take a blue stain, right? So that's my purpose with this video, to just give you an orientation to both MBBS and postgraduates on how to approach a slide without fear. And anytime you see something unknown, ask yourself, okay, so it looks a little pink, what could it be? Or it looks a little blue, what could it be? So I have a lot of images to show you, so stay tuned and pay attention. Let's begin. So what on a histopath slide, which is hematoxylin and eosin stain, would stain bluish purple or purplish blue? First of all, remember that hematoxylin is a basic slide, is a basic stain. So because it's a basic stain, it binds to acidic components in the cell or even outside the cell. So if anything is taking a bluish color, that means first of all, it's a little acidic in its composition. Of course, the nucleus in any cell is going to be bluish and purplish because it's full of DNA and RNA. And sometimes even in the cytoplasm, if you have a lot of RNA, like a very active endoplasmic reticulum with a rough endoplasmic reticulum, even that could be a little bluish. Now, just to give you a recollection with the chapter of cell injury, I hope all of you recall that all of this cytoplasmic RNA is lost in cell injury, which is a reason why a dying cell looks very pink. Of course, it's also pink because of the breakdown of the cytoplasmic, the denaturation of the cytoplasmic proteins, but this is also a very important reason. So this is just to tell you what could be blue, what could be bluish purple. Now look at this slide. This is a stratified squamous epithelium. I'm just going to orient you to it. You can make out this is the basement membrane over here. So this is the entire epithelial tissue. This would be the subepithelial tissue. You can even see a very nice cute little blood vessel here, and all of this is a little bit of collagen. Now if you focus on the epidermis or on the epithelium just above the basement membrane, I hope all of you can make out that there is a layer of cells which seems to have darker nuclei, and as you go up, the nuclei become smaller and the cells become a little larger. Now imagine if this was in the cervix. If this was in the cervix, these are what you call your basal cells, and then parabasal cells, and then intermediate cells, and then of course squamous, superficial cells, which is what you see when you perform a pap smear, right? So this is a normal cervical epithelium. I just wanted to tell you that look, even in a normal epithelium, you can have darker staining nuclei, lighter staining nuclei, bigger cells, and this is just a stratified squamous epithelium. Now look at this photo. Forget what tissue it is. I just want you to appreciate that there are nuclei which are smaller, and then there are nuclei which are bigger and darker, right? So the term we use for things like this, look, even in this photograph, you can see some regular looking nuclei and then some larger, darker looking nuclei. Here also, I hope you can make out, you can see some darker nuclei, and I hope you can also make out that in the nuclei, there are some more darker points, and those are nucleoli. Those are nucleoli. And here again in this photograph, I hope you can make out larger nuclei, right? So the term we use when you get a larger, darker nuclei is hyperchromatic nuclei. And I have explained the term chromatic in my video on the A to Z of pathology. So you can go back and have a look at that as well. So this is a basic idea of how we would describe the chromasia of the nuclei. Look at these nuclei here. They don't look so much darker as maybe a little emptier with a very prominent nucleoli. Here also you can make out that it's not evenly distributed. The nuclei seems like the chromatin of the nuclei seems like it's a little spread out. This is because there's more euchromatin here than heterochromatin. So, it looks a little, spread out. This kind of nucleus is called a vesicular nucleus or a vesicular chromatin. This will be helpful for our postgraduates because when you're describing a malignancy, you must have noticed your seniors, your teachers using the term, the nuclei have vesicular chromatin. This is what it means. It's a little loose. It looks like there are vesicles. That's why it looks a little empty in places. So that term used is vesicular chromatin. It's still blue, but as you can see, it's a little shaded. Now look at this histodiagram. You can see this is a vessel, this is the lumen, and this would be the endothelial layer, and you can make out the rest of the wall, especially the media. And I hope all of you can make out that within the media, although the lumens are not compromised at all, within the media there is a lot of bluish deposition, right? So this is extracellular, this is not within the cells. We're looking at a very low power view, and this kind of deposition is very classical in calcium, and this is called Monckeberg medial calcific sclerosis, right? Now look at this photo. Again, you can see a vessel, but you can make out that there is something blocking it, right? So this is the atheroma. And within the atheroma, again, you can make out a lot of calcification. So this is a calcified atheroma, right? I hope you can make out the difference between the two. This one is going to be clinically not very significant, but here definitely there are going to be some symptoms, right? Next. Now let's look at some inclusions that you see in microbiology. In front of you, say it's a lung biopsy, and you can make out a cell which seems to have a very dark, single, intranuclear, but dark, so basophilic, round to elongated inclusions, right? Now, as you can make out, there's a clear vacuolar space around it. These are called owl's eye appearance, as I'm sure all of you can tell me. These are largest by any virus caused in humans, and these are called cytomegalovirus inclusions. Very simple. Cytocell, megalo, big. So cell has become bigger, it's intranuclear, and they're darker. You can compare it with Reed-Sternberg cell, because Reed-Sternberg cell would have two binucleate appearance, and they're a little more pinker than this inclusion. Okay. Again, look at these slides. I hope you can make out, it looks like there is circular arrangement, circular arrangement. These are called psammoma bodies, and they are very classically seen in whorled tumors and papillary tumors. So whorled tumors is where the cells are arranged like this, and papillary tumors are where the cells are making structures like this. Either ways, there is dystrophic calcification, and that could lead to dystrophic calcification either in the center, like you can see here, or in the tips of the papillae, like you can see in papillary carcinomas of thyroid, kidney, or even ovary. So this picture is actually of a meningioma, and in this meningioma you can see a lot of psammoma bodies, basophilic laminated dystrophic calcifications. It's a very interesting reason why we call them psammoma. It's actually come from the term for sand. You know how a sand or any foreign body becomes laminated, calcified, and forms a pearl. So that's where the term psammoma has come from. See, so interesting. Next. These are 2, 3 hematological conditions. You can see here neutrophils, right? And in the neutrophils, you can make out these dark basophilic inclusions. These are called Dole bodies, which are dilated ER, and they're seen in conditions where there would be sepsis or toxic granulation or just increased activity of neutrophils. These are RBCs, which again you can make out very dark spherical inclusions. Now, hemoglobin has given the pink color to the RBCs, whereas the dark basophilic inclusions should make you wonder, why are they dark? Why are they, basophilic? So these are called Howell-Jolly bodies, and they are basophilic because they are DNA remnants. Remember, DNA would take the blue stain. So Howell-Jolly bodies is a sign of ineffective or hurried erythropoiesis. They should have been removed, they did not get removed, or the cells did not form properly. So they're seen in a variable number of conditions. Don't mug a list of conditions. Always ask yourself, why is it seen? And once you know the why, every other condition presents in front of you, you'll be able to explain why Howell-Jolly bodies are present. So these are two very interesting slides for hematological conditions with some basophilic inclusions. Next, this is a lung biopsy from a patient, say a smoker with a mass. And as you can make out, these are blood vessels, and the blood vessels seem to be encrusted with some blue material, right? Now, this is called Azzopardi phenomenon, and this is very classically seen in small cell lung carcinoma. Now, in small cell lung carcinoma, it's a very aggressive tumor. And because it's a very aggressive tumor, it has a very high turnover, which means that there's a very increased necrosis seen everywhere. And broken tissue, necrotic tissue, its DNA gets, sort of encrusted over the adjacent blood vessels, which is why, since it's DNA encrustation is going to look blue. Hence, you get azopardy phenomenon. It's not pathognomonic, but it's fairly classical. Now let's come to what will stain pink. So eosin will stain pink because it's an acidic stain and it binds to basic components. So anything basic anywhere in or out of the cell would stain pink. So since cytoplasm is full of basic proteins, the cell's cytoplasm is pink. And of course, if there's any extracellular protein deposition, that would also be pink. So look at this slide. Here you can make out big cells, right? You can see vesicular nuclei. Yes, I hope you remember that from the previous discussion. So vesicular nuclei and really big cells, right? And all the cells have pink cytoplasm. But here in this photograph, I hope you can make out that the nuclei seem to be larger. They are a high NC ratio, which is why I always remind students that if you have a very high NC ratio cell, the slide is going to look very blue because cytoplasm would be less. But if the nuclei appear a little, further apart, that means the cells were bigger and the cytoplasm was quite abundant, right? Next, this is a liver biopsy from a patient, say, who is a long-standing alcoholic and is now grossly, the liver is showing nodules. So it's a cirrhosis case, and these are all hepatocytes. But here in between the hepatocytes, you can see bands, pink bands of fibrosis. So this is what you call cirrhosis, right? And if you want to target this fibrosis and demonstrate it, we look for something called reticulin stain or reticulin fibers, which are actually type 3 collagen specifically, which we like to identify by using a special silver stain. And the silver stain anywhere would give you a black deposit. So look at this slide, you can make out black deposits of fibrosis and nodules of hepatocytes. So this is a case of cirrhosis of liver. Next, this is a renal biopsy, and again you can make out a blood vessel here which looks like there's a lot of deposition of something pink, and mesangium also seems to be arranged in nodules, which deposition of something pink. So anytime you have anything pink on histology, which can be of course intra or extracellular, and it appears amorphous and we have no idea just by looking what it's made of. It's fairly homogeneous and it is acellular. So this entire description is used for a morphological term called hyaline. So what you see here are hyaline nodules in the mesangium, hyaline deposition in the mesangium, and a hyaline deposition in the blood vessel. It's actually a case of diabetes with hypertension. So the diabetes in the kidney has caused what we call Kimmelston-Wilson nodules, and within the vessels you can see what we call hyaline arteriolosclerosis. Hyaline arteriolosclerosis. So two findings in actually just one picture. So remember, the term hyaline is not one particular thing. It is just something which is pink, amorphous, means it has no morphology, homogeneous and acellular. Next, this is a cardiac biopsy. These are, you can make out cardiac myocytes, the large arrowhead. But in between, I hope you can make out again deposition of something pink. As you can make out, it is classically extracellular, and I would call it hyaline, but then I'd also tell you that this is Congo red positive. Suppose I tell you it's Congo red positive. What would you call it? You would call it amyloid. So remember, amyloid is also eosinophilic. See, in the same slide, you can make out that the pink of the amyloid and the pink of the myocytes is a little different, isn't it? That's why remember the title, 50 Shades of Pink and Blue. Okay, so remember you can use the word hyaline here as well, but we know what it is. It is amyloid, amylose-like, and it is extracellular and Congo red positive. Now let's again look at a couple of inclusions. Have a look here. This is a neuron. Suppose I was to tell you it's a neuron. Within the neuron, you can make out there is a cytoplasmic, round to oval, eosinophilic inclusions, which are classically seen in pyramidal neurons of the hippocampus and Purkinje cells of the cerebellum. And these sites are usually devoid of any inflammation. I'm sure all of you can tell me now, these are negri bodies seen in rabies. Okay, so remember they're eosinophilic inclusions, and these are the classical sites where they can be seen. Next, again, you can make out a cell here with a very classical single or sometimes even multiple, again cytoplasmic, again eosinophilic, again round to elongated. But I hope you can make out that there is a dense core and then there is a bit of a halo. So if I were to look at it on ultrastructure or electron microscopy, I would see alpha-synuclein filaments. So this is a proteinaceous inclusion, which is why it's eosinophilic, and it's densely packed in the core, which is why you get like a dense core, and it becomes loose at the rim, which is why you get a bit of a pale halo. These are called Lewy bodies, which are very characteristically seen in Parkinson's disease and Lewy body dementia. So with this video, I just wanted to give you an idea of how we classify some things as eosinophilic or basophilic, some pathologies associated with them. So anytime you see anything new on a slide, especially for postgraduates, don't worry, just ask yourself what things could look pink, what things could look blue. And of course, this list is not exhaustive, it's a very basic list. And as and when possible, wherever we do more things in upcoming videos, I will keep mentioning eosinophilic and basophilic. So I hope all of you liked the video. Do like, share, comment. If there's any doubt, subscribe, and of course, stay tuned for more such content. All the very best to all of you.